Welcome to R.E.A.L.Talk Coaching, where we challenge the blueprint life hands us and create our own. This isn't just a podcast, it's a living room conversation, a space for honesty, community, and real talk about what success and happiness mean for us. Here, our voices and our stories are power, and together we'll share tools, insights, and conversations that help you take real steps towards the life you want. Let's get into it. Okay.
All right, everyone. Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another segment of Real Talk Coaching Podcast with myself, Coach Sharon, and my great colleagues, co-host, Coach Tara and Coach Terry. And we're here to give you some insights and things about fear. That's what we came to talk about today, about fear, that terrible, terrible four-letter word that people don't like to hear, don't like to acknowledge, and that comes our way. So we're going to get started with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Coach Tara.
Hey everybody. So listen, fear, right? I wanted, let's talk about fear today. Not necessarily fear of, like being struck by lightning or, fear of being a dog bite, physical fear, not necessarily those types of fears, but fear more connected to like decision making. So ladies, I wanted to share with you all. I had read a book a few years ago called The 50th Law. It's by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and Robert Greene. You all may have heard of Robert Greene. He wrote the 48 Laws of something or another. Didn't read that one, but I did read the 50th Law. So the 50th Law was all about fear and how fear impacts decisions and decision making. In the backdrop was 50 Cent's life and just kind of some of the experiences that he had. So I'm reading the book. One of the quotes that really stuck out to me is actually even like my little email tag is our fears are a kind of prison that confine you within limited range of action. The less you fear, the more power you will have and the more fully you will live. When I read that, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I'd love to be fearless like that. How awesome would it be, right, to really not be afraid to make a decision, not be afraid to make a change, not be afraid to make a different choice, not be afraid to kind of step outside of what are considered norms, right? And I feel like in this day and age, fear of those things, making different decisions, is something good for us to talk about here. So, ladies, I want to ask you all. What are some things that you've heard fear stand for as an acronym?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a different, it's been several different ones that I've heard, but the most common one I think is false evidence appearing real. What about you, Coach Terry?
So I recently heard forget everything and run, which made me
Yeah.
laugh a little bit because that's really what you do when you fear something, right?
Right.
Um but I just recently heard face everything and rise.
Mm,
I thought
mm.
that had a really positive, courageous connotation to it.
I agree. I agree. I think probably with each one, there is a place and a time, a situation where we have to, look at what's reality, false evidence appearing real. Like, what is reality? Having that reality testing, forget everything and run. Like, sometimes we just have to cut ties with certain things, certain situations, certain habits, and
Yeah.
just flee. Like the Bible tells us, just to flee. And then face everything and rise reminds me of the book Chandra Rhimes has, was The Year of Yes,
Yes.
which she just accepted yes for every challenge or things that came her way,
Yep.
even though she might have never done it before, she just said yes. So I think there's a situation in which you can use each one of those um, each one of those sayings for.
Very true. That's very true.
That makes sense. So when we think about that, let's talk about the fear of uncertainty, right? Let's talk about, how we like to be comfortable. right? As humans, we like to be comfortable. I like to be comfortable. I like what's familiar, but is it really fulfilling? I know there have been times, when I can think of a particular transition at work that I was offered, and I thought about it. I was good at my job. I was good at what I was doing, but I was kind of bored and over it at the same time. And so I had an opportunity to do something different, right? Uh, but doing something different, it created a lot of uncertainty. You go somewhere different, you start working with different people, you don't know if it's going to match up. Um, and then there were a lot of what ifs. What if I'm not good, right? What if I'm not as good as I think I am because these are new people who are just meeting me? And so I had to, deal with all of those kinds of things and go through those types of questions. So, and now, we just think about life, right? It's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. A lot of things are just transitioning and different. Um, and that can be scary, right? That can make us want to forget everything and run, right? But
Yes.
let's figure out maybe how we can face everything and rise, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm gonna ask you, ladies, what's one area in your life where you feel like you might be playing it safe, but you could be a little uninspired, and maybe you want to make a little change, do something different.
Good question.
It is. Hmm.
I can go first while Sharon is thinking about it because one of the things that I've always been afraid of is exposure, right? And so, especially when you're talking about uncertainty, you're talking about uncertainty with everything that's going on right now and wanting to do my part. And what does that look like? And for me, it looks like speaking out. It looks like having a little bit of courage to say what I think needs to be said and to say it in the way that it's most impactful to the most amount of people. And that means not being as private as I've been. And it's scary because you open yourself up to criticism, which is fine, but you open yourself up to people who may not have anyone's best interest at heart. Um, and so that's scary. Going public is scary.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Um, Uncertainty. I have always tried to stay in the comfort zone was for me, whether it's going to a networking event. If I don't know people, and I just did this yesterday, if I don't know you or know people there, I will sit over in my corner and be fine, watch people go back and forth, no one say, oh, I should have talked to him. I should have talked to that person. Um, just not knowing people, that's uncertainty. I think for me, even working, just staying in the same position for all those years without like trying to try something new. Even though I'm great at what I did, um, I didn't like step out of my comfort zone until like enough was enough in that position where I was not as happy as I had been in the past. But after I got out and I was like, oh, look at all this out here. I could have been doing stuff. So yeah, for me, um, it was just trying to move out of that comfort zone where I knew things were, even if sometimes, even when it's bad, people stay in things in relationships because the uncertainty of what's going to happen if I leave, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good point. We have to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. So, and it's interesting because both of you all of us really, when we talked about uncertainty, we talked about we all thought about kind of worst case scenarios, right? worst case scenario when being exposed, worst case scenario when making, a change. But we also talked about how fulfilling and how empowering and rewarding it is or it was when we did, kind of follow through and just challenge that level of uncertainty. So thank you. That was awesome. So what about failure? What about the fear of failure?
Yeah, fear of failure. What about it? People use that a lot, and and there is a fear that people have about failure, but I think they can get that confused with the fear of success. So, but we want to talk about failure, and then we'll go into fear of success because sometimes we feel that we aren't as good as we really are. And so we feel that we're going to fail because we are comparing ourselves to, someone else. So it can lead to us procrastinating because we think that we can't get it done, to avoidance, and just setting our sights on lower things because we just think that we're not as good as we actually are. We are our own critics. We are hardest on ourselves, and other people can see things in us sometimes, and we'll say, "No, that's still not me. I'm not going to do that because I'm not good. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that." But maybe we haven't tried, and even we try, if we fail, then isn't that a learning opportunity? So if we think about what if failure is simply a dynamic learning opportunity, a vital step in our path to an incredible growth?
Hmm,
Is
I like
that, yeah, it gives a new insight. And I don't like to use like weaknesses. I like to say challenges.
that.
We can learn through our challenges as well as our successes. So those things that we fail or we think we're failing at can be a challenge, and we learn through that so we can grow to the next level. You take something from everything that we do to move on to that next journey.
Yeah.
So that kind
So,
of, I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
no.
I'm
So
sorry.
that kind of reminds me of that quote, right? That false evidence one, false
Mhm.
evidence appearing real.
Right.
Mhm.
In thinking about the fear of failure in thinking something is true, but not necessarily going through the process of
Mhm.
investigating whether or not that is actually the case. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Huh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Coach Sharon, I cut you off. What were you going to
Oh,
say?
no, 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 no. I'm glad you mentioned that because that is great insight. It does. We have that perception.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if Coach Terry, if you had something that you wanted to add to that about the fear of failure.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to fear of failure for me, it's not necessarily the impact on me if I fail, but the impact on those who are around me.
Mm,
My family, letting people down, I think is what I think of when I think of fear of failure is I don't want people to think less of me
mhm,
because I failed. But and I also like in the case of, oh, you weren't able to be promoted because you failed at these things, that impacts family. It impacts the money coming in and then what you're able to do for your family. And those things are really scary for a lot of people, including me. So when I think of fear of failure, I think of pretty much letting other people down.
mm. That's interesting you say that because what comes to mind for me when you say that is what are other people thinking about me when we fail and how important that is because it's not really looking at, okay, this is an opportunity to learn and grow, but
Yeah.
it's, oh, they think, they saw me fail. So they're going to think I'm a failure.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that goes back to us people pleasing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's external. It's not internal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely resonates with me. My fear of failure. I always say I take safe risk, right? What does that
Mm.
really mean? So that means that I don't really extend myself. You know what I mean? Like I stay in a nice little bubble, right? Like I like roller coasters because I want some extreme feeling, but I'm not necessarily going to skydive, right?
Right.
That's a little too free.
We got to go skydiving. That's on my bucket list.
Oh snap!
I did the indoor skydiving. I haven't done the
But but that would be a risk, right? So maybe I can get myself together, Coach Sharon, and join you. At minimum, I would cheer you on from the
I
ground.
appreciate that.
At minimum.
I appreciate that.
But
We can do.
so I didn't, as you all were talking, that was kind of the thing that came up for me was the fact that when I think of the fear of failure, for me, it applies to the fact that I don't take a lot of risk, um, or I take what I feel like are very calculated risk, which goes back to that false evidence, right? Like, am I telling myself the truth when I'm calculating, the
yeah.
risk involved in taking a step or doing something different? So I'm gonna have to think about that moving forward. As people invite me to do things like skydive, and I'm like, let's go on the roller coaster instead.
Yes, yes. I think with that fear of failure, sometimes we just run. We just kind of run and hide from the opportunity, knowing sometimes that it is an opportunity. Sometimes we know it's an opportunity for us to move and get better, but we fear we're going to fail at whatever it is. We feel that we're going to look bad in front of other people
Yeah.
when they may be there to cheer you on and get you through that failure to that safety. Because you know how sometimes people say, um, I couldn't even pray for myself, and if other people prayed for me and got me through, then somebody cheering you on, believing in you can get you past that fear of failure. And you start believing that you could get it done. So instead of running, trying to face it, at least face to see what is the real fear. Like it goes deeper than just failing. Like I said, pleasing other people,
Mhm.
not living up to someone's standards, or thinking that we're lower than what we really are. So
Yeah.
that's a really deep one. But we want to talk also about the fear of success.
Yeah. So I was telling Tara earlier, I think when I think of fear of failure and success, I'm actually both, right? But fear of success, when you succeed, people expect that all the time now, so there is that fear in that, right? Like, oh, you were able to do it once, so you're gonna have to be, you'll be able to do it again and again and again. That's a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
So, so when I think of that, that's what I think of. But also, as you succeed, right? Sometimes that means okay, so say you're evolving and you're in school, you're getting your PhD, or you've been promoted and now you're traveling a lot and you're meeting all these new people, you have a new sphere of influence. Now that kind of changes the dynamic of who you are as you evolve.
Mhm.
And so who are you when you're back around these people that you've been with all this time, watching you evolve, watching you kind of break away. Because when you succeed and you change and you evolve, it can sometimes change the dynamics of your comfortable relationships, right? So that's one thing about success is as you succeed, people may think that you're breaking away from them. And then the other thing is when you succeed, it's like now you have the spotlight on you. And as an introvert, that's the last thing that I want, right? I'm a behind the scenes person. I don't want to be up front. And so but when people are trying to promote you, the first thing they do is try to put you in front of everybody. And it's like, this isn't what I was doing this for, right? So that fear of, being on the spotlight, that's another fear of success that I know I've experienced. And so, you know, what is a goal that either one of you ladies have been hesitant to chase because of that fear of success?
You go ahead, Coach Tara. I'm still trying to think.
So let's see. So I think for me, it kind of correlates to what you were saying earlier when we talk about uncertainty, but exposure. I really want to be in math education. That's a dream that I have. I want to be connected in that space. Um, and so my fear of success in that space is more so about I have to expose myself. I have to stand out. I have to take what I know about math, about education, and really kind of put it in the forefront. And the success part of that is, can I do it? Right. And if I do it, what happens to the things that I currently think are my passion and where I spend my time and focus? What dynamic does that change? I'm afraid of that success because I do feel like it will change. It'll change my everyday. It'll change what I do every day. It'll change how I live to some degree. And so I've been afraid to kind of really step out there. I've networked, I've taken classes, I've met people. I've even been a part of activities, in math education. But I've been afraid to actually jump out there and say, I'm going to be, a STEM educator, a math educator, because I'm afraid that what's going to happen to my science space, right? Like, am I going to just drop that altogether?
Right.
And then go over here? Maybe so, right? But I have to be different in that space. To be successful, I have to be different, and so I have to challenge myself, and that's the fear of being successful that I'm afraid of, because I have to be different in education. What I want to do in education, I can't be behind the scenes. In science, I stay well behind the scenes.
Right.
So for me, that's the fear that I have, that I have to step outside of my safe risk and my comfort zones, and it will change me if I am successful, and that's what I'm afraid of. I don't know what that change will look like, um, but I think I like her if I do it.
Yeah, but I think you'll love her. I think you'll love her once you step out there and see um, all that God has for you in that space. I still, I'm looking at this question, thinking about this question, and I will say for me, um, I've been kind of not necessarily chasing any more goals because I've been doing a lot of the things that I've wanted to do and have been hesitated on doing for one reason or the other. Just probably just like Coach Terry said, I was scared that if I'm successful, I gotta do it again. And will it look like the same thing I did the first time? Like, I I have to make sure that it's exactly the same. And it's not going to be the same every time. I may be successful and it look one way one time and still be successful and look another way a different time, but the impact is still the same in both situations. As I have decided to, move in um, different avenues, I think I am opening up my territory. And what I mean is that when I first started thinking about doing coaching, I was like, okay, here I am, a be a coach. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll be a speaker. And then I'll be a consultant. Oh, I can do a whole nother thing over here with real estate or with technology. And it just keeps growing and growing as I'm seeing different things come to mind and come in my way. And so I think I need to just reel back because I only have so much time in a day, and don't want to overload myself. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about too. Like I like to, I've always liked to be involved in things, but I don't want to overwhelm myself. So some things I'm gonna have to know that I'm gonna cut back on because if I have too much, then I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to be able to be what I need to be in that space. So I need to determine what is successful for me in each space that I'm in for that period of time that I'm in it. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to be successful. I'm not fear of the failure part, and I'm not fear of the success. Oh, let me take that back. I'm fear of the success that I might have to continue because I got so much going on. And if I'm all up 10 at everything that I'm doing, then I'm going to come crashing down at some point. So I need to say, okay, right now, this is how successful I can be with you in this space. And this is how successful I can be with you in this space. And when I can be more successful, then increment up. It's kind of like when you go to get a massage, right? And they not only give you a massage, but they're like, oh, we're gonna throw in a facial and a manicure and pedicure, but you still just paying for the massage. You're like, oh wow, I got all this extra stuff, and we give you some free, free little samples. Like, I got all this extra stuff, and I just paid for the massage. That's how I want to be. I want to be where you're expecting the massage, but I'm gonna be able to incrementally give you all these other things, but I'm gonna have to start at the massage level and then work my way up. So I don't want to. So I think that's just going back. My goal is not to overwhelm myself with trying to be too successful in everything. Just be as successful as I can be, which is going to look different in each space.
I like that. I
Me
like that.
too.
Mm.
I think that resonates just holistically. I mean, you got a lot going on. You got a lot of space.
Too much
You got a
sometimes.
lot of spaces. But I think that that just kind of resonates just even with those of us who are not in so many spaces, right? Really just thinking about what does success mean in this space and how much does it, how much does that really require? So that we can be successful in all the spaces that we want to be successful in. And I like the fact that you said that you can define it differently in each space, right? Like success.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what might sometimes I think impact my fear of success, thinking that it has to look the same in each space,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or it has to feel the same or something like that in each space. But listening to you, Coach Sharon, it's eye opening and thinking about the fact that, right, like success can be defined differently. Um, just depending on, where you are, what you're doing, and, what the impact of it is. So,
Yeah. Thank
okay.
you. I
Yeah.
try.
You do well.
Yeah, so I guess people would just have to ask themselves, what does success look like to you?
Right.
And what does success look like to you for each situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to what fear may stand for, false evidence appearing real, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Like going back to those, and what was success? What do you have to do? Do you have to face something?
Hmm.
Do you have to forget something?
Mhm.
Do you have to have that reality check to see if it's false?
Yeah.
Mm, I like it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I like
And what
that.
opportunities do you open yourself up to when you do face everything and rise, right? And the impact that that has on your community or your family or yourself in your own self-confidence and self-worth, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If my STEM win, my STEM opportunity becomes successful, the whole world will love math because that's the mission. So that will be the success. That will be what pours back into the community. That's how it will uplift, right? Because everybody will learn to love math. No one will say, I hate math.
I don't know about this new math these kids got going on.
Yeah.
Because their
Yeah.
math will be math and like, math.
I cannot help my grandkids with their homework. You can forget it.
So if you can get us to get back to the old math, at least a
Right.
portion of it,
Exactly.
we will love math again.
Right.
My goal is to try to integrate both, right?
Yeah,
Because right,
yeah,
I know the old math very well. The new math
right.
I'm learning as well.
Yeah, I love that. That was some I will say as far as math, that was something that, oh gosh, I faced that with such fear. My sister is a math whiz. I am not. And so, yeah, but when you conquer it, when you realize it's about formulas and patterns, it's not as scary.
Mhm.
But it takes a good teacher.
Okay. It does. It does.
Mhm. But that's the point you just made, is that when you face it, right, it's not as scary.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point about facing our fears, right? Like if we face them, some of them we will realize we're not necessarily as scary as we perceived, that they were. Maybe
Yeah.
jumping out of the plane is not as scary as it may
We're not
seem.
gonna do it by ourselves. It's gonna be that tandem,
Hands on.
tandem where
Oh,
you be attached to somebody who's experienced.
I've always said I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for my 50th. That didn't happen.
Uh,
And yeah, so and I think we may have still been in the midst of COVID, but that's why I tried the indoor. So yes, if you all are interested in skydiving, I'm in.
all right, all right.
all right, we're gonna
Even
make it.
if that means that Tara's just gonna cheer for us.
Like we'll let everybody know how it goes. We'll see. We'll
Look,
see.
that comes from somebody. Me, I don't even like going across high bridges. So I would try to find a workaround, or just I'm praying and singing gospel and praying as I'm going across those bridges.
Oh.
So, what do we do when we are fearful? What are some of the things that we do when we are feeling those emotions that fear bring up, right? Like anxiety or sweaty palms or cracking voices. I know when I have to publicly speak, my voice gets to cracking terribly. So what are some of the things you all do? Sharon just mentioned one of my favorites, which is singing some of my favorite songs. That tends to help.
Um, I noticed that when I get nervous and when I have to speak, I will go real fast. Like I'm just going through everything. That'll come back and say, "Oh, I meant to answer. Are there any questions?" You know, but I'll just kind of go through whatever it is really fast. But I also procrastinate, and I think that's the easiest thing for me is to procrastinate. I'll have it on my to-do list, things I need to do, and then I'll just, it's like, oh, let me do this. And you do all these other little things. And then by the time you actually come to where it's like, oh, the day's gone by. I didn't get that done. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll call that person tomorrow. I'll deal with whatever it is tomorrow, that issue tomorrow. And we know tomorrow's not always promised. So procrastination is, I know we talked about this before, is one of the biggest things I think people really use when they are fearful of something because they don't want to face whatever it is, whether it's fear, of failure, fear of success, fear of uncertainty. Um, yeah, procrastination.
Definitely for me, it's procrastinate. Now, the funny thing is, when there's a physical fear, like I'm in the house, I'm by myself, I hear something, I will run downstairs and confront it, right? But when it's something that affects me mentally, affects um and if it affects other people, say like if it's a team effort or it's something that I'm responsible for as part of a team, I get really anxious and like Sharon said, I'll try to do it fast to get it over with. If it's just something that I'm solely responsible for, I will procrastinate forever. But and it's so crazy because you would think the physical fear would be the stronger um, resistance or stronger feeling. But like I said, so say I'm coming into the house and I think I hear something in the closet. I will wrench that closet open and be like, "What you doing in here?" Even though nobody's there, nothing's there, just to get it over with, because either they're gonna kill me or they're not. But when it comes to actually doing something that, like for work or something that a friend has asked me to do, and it's something that is out of my comfort zone, I will not approach it in the same manner. I will procrastinate like a mug, or I'll rush through it to get it done so I can say it's done.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, Coach Terry, I was thinking about how it depends. How my reaction, it sounds like your reaction to fear, depends on the situation, who's involved,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how we move. So it may be our family member that's involved in this and they might be in danger, but we know, even though it's fearful, we're going to go out there to protect that family member or do whatever, even though we are still fearful too. We're going
Yes.
to protect our child, our grandchild, parents, siblings, whatever. Um, but if it's something that maybe, like work, I'm not saying for people to procrastinate on work, but it might be okay. I put that off for a little bit longer, So I think it kind of depends. If it's something personal, then depending on our situation, we might, um, either go full force, like you say, you just be opening doors and stuff. I'm more of a freeze. I was thinking about fight or freeze, and I'm a freezer. Like I've had dreams where I was in a fearful situation and I'm a freeze. If I'm in my home and I hear something, then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna move. What is going on? and I'm gonna sit here still I see or feel comfortable. So I think, like I said, it just kind of depends on the situation, who's involved, the impact. Like you mentioned that too, Coach Terry, about the
Yes.
impact that it has on ourselves or others, on how we deal with the fear, so we can be able to move past it.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me ask you, ladies, if you agree with this statement. Fear is not a weakness, it's an opportunity. When we face it, we get to decide if we let it hold us back or propel us forward.
Ah, that's powerful. I go
Mhm.
back to the closet thing. Fear is not a weakness, it's an opportunity. Either there's gonna be somebody there or there's not. I mean, like, but when it's something like, what we're doing, opening ourselves up to the public, opening ourselves up for scrutiny,
Mhm.
it's still an opportunity. It is an opportunity to impact other people in a positive way, impact their lives in a positive way, impact their lives in a way that it may change them completely.
Mhm.
And so, in that case, yes, fear is an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. It's a powerful statement. And when we do expose ourselves, whether it's like we're doing here or
Mhm.
in the workplace or to someone, um, you know, to someone else in our community, then we are faced with, okay, now what are they going to think about us?
Yeah.
And so there's that fear of maybe not being respected anymore. But
Ooh,
then it's also, again, about an opportunity to say, I am who I am. And I can make changes, but am I make changes because that person wants me to change or because I really need to change? And I know that's part of another discussion we're going to talk about being authentic.
yeah.
But um, we have to think about that too. Are we worried about what somebody else is thinking in the spaces that we're in? Is how is that holding us back from the opportunities that come in our, come before us?
That's so funny that you say that. I remember my cousin, my oldest cousin, told me when you hit 40, you kind of stop caring about what other people think. Like you're more open to saying things that you wouldn't have ordinarily said because it's like you live till you're 40, like come on. And as I'm in my 50s now, I feel like I have let too many things and too many people have
Mm-hmm.
control over me, over my thoughts, over my actions and inaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta let some stuff go. I've
Yeah.
gotta let that fear go of the people pleasing, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also let go of the thought that my opinions don't matter. Let
Mm-hmm.
go of the thought that my actions don't matter. Let go of the thought that my desires don't matter. And
Mm-hmm.
all of those things were wrapped in fear. Fear of failure, success, and uncertainty, all three of
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm in a different place now than I was 10 years ago. And I'm more willing to confront fear than I was 10 years ago. But that doesn't mean that it comes without challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that came to mind as you were talking, Coach Terry, is that as Black women, we have been, put where we shouldn't talk. We shouldn't. give our opinions. We shouldn't do all these things. We, shouldn't wear our hair in a certain way or do certain things because the way other people may feel. And so there's that fear, put quotation marks, fear that's put on us that we have to be a certain way, otherwise we wouldn't be accepted.
Yes.
That makes me think of that. I don't even really want to say it, but Black women have been characterized as aggressive when we advocate for ourselves or for others. Um, and right, that's something that I went into the work world being like, okay, let me make sure I don't show up that way. I didn't plan to show up that way anyway. Right. But now I'm walking around with that feeling, right? And that fear that people are gonna see that. And so now I'm altering, right? Now I've internalized it. And like we were saying earlier, is it about me or is it about them? When you do that. And so, that's another space where or an opportunity to kind of rethink, look at the evidence, right? I don't show up to create fear. I don't show up to create anxiety in any space that I'm in. And so I need to shed that. I should not go into a space thinking someone is going to see me that way. I should refuse to accept that when I go into a space, someone is going to see me that way. See me as I am. And be comfortable and encouraged, right? And self-confident to be able to do that. So yeah.
Right. Because my advocacy is not an attack on you. My advocacy for myself is not an attack on you. So then you have that further burden. You already got your own fears, right? You have the further burden of having someone else's fears placed on you unfairly a lot of times. And so I don't even know how to categorize that one. But that also, it stunts you, stunts your growth, right? Just like another way that people do that, you put their fear on you, is when you don't want to outshine your spouse or your sibling or your best friends, by going out there and being courageous. So that person's fear also impacts how you move in this world too.
You all have said some powerful stuff right there. I mean, Tara, when you said I hadn't planned on coming that way anyway. I was like, what? Like that is it. Like that is it. Like we have stuff put on us that we had no intentions of being aggressive or anything, mad or anything of those things until someone said that about you. And it was like, well, that didn't come into my head, but now that you said it, now I'm these feelings because that's not what I was feeling. But now that you said it, I'm gonna come at you like that.
Right.
And like you said, Coach Terry, just like I said, the people just putting stuff on top of us, putting stuff on top of us that we had no intention, putting their stuff on us, and we accepted. So our shoulders get heavier and heavier, and we're getting tired, and so we're fearful that we are being seen as tired. Also, so we can't be successful if we've seen as tired because we got that superwoman cape still on us.
Oh yeah.
Listen, that's a whole situation, that cape.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
we shared that cape, we lift those weights.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Uh-oh.
didn't intend on coming in here. Those things were part of my agenda. So don't give it to me because it's not part of my agenda. That's what we should focus on, not taking on other people's fears.
Yeah.
That's something we didn't think about at first, taking on other people's fears. A
Hmm.
fear of taking on other people's fears. No, just just not taking on other people's fears as we are hearing them put onto us in, verbiage. Oh, you're coming off like this. You don't want to be seen like this. You don't want to be seen like that. How would it be felt if we asked that same question back to them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Ladies, fear is a big topic, right? As we can see, I mean, we didn't talk about uncertainty, failure, success, but it was all intertwined, right? And
Yeah.
then even when we talked about, fears that others put on us,
Hmm.
um, it's all intertwined and interconnected, which again is very interesting, right? Just how that's connected, and we deal with all of this all day, every day. All of these things. Um, so I don't know. What's one fear that we might be thinking we're ready to look at? You got one? I'm gonna look at the skydiving thing. I'm really gonna think about that. I'm really gonna think about that. But outside of that, though, I'm gonna really step outside of my safe risk bubble, and really start allowing myself to be seen in some of these other communities and spaces, and really letting my voice be heard so that I can have an impact, and share, what I know, in my skill sets and knowledge around math and other things. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to really engage in those spaces, and allow myself to step outside, um, step away from the computer and be seen.
Yeah, I think for me, just going back over the fact that I do a lot of stuff, and it's probably, I don't know, so probably it is something to deal with the people pleasing. I can be a people pleaser. So going back to what I said about being successful in the space as in each space differently, just making sure that those that are in those spaces understand this is as successful, tell them this is as successful as I can be in this space right now and letting it go.
And I'm just going to continue putting myself out there, putting my voice out there, because I may be speaking for someone who hasn't yet found their voice. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing. And so now we have a call to action, I guess, for everybody else out here. And so we want people to ask themselves, what is one thing that you're ready to look at, not as a threat, but as a guide, right? A guide out of that fear and into success, or into advocating for someone else, or impacting someone else, or your own life in a positive way. And what's one small step that you will take today to make that happen? Um, we want you to share your insights in the comments section. And we also want to make sure that you know to like and subscribe to our podcast. And close us out, Tara or Sharon.
I say just be successful. Don't be
Face
successful.
everything and rise.
Yes, yes. Or
All right.
flourishing. Yeah, run.
Well, thank you everyone for watching today's episode. It's our fourth episode on fear and its impact. And our next podcast, we will be talking about authenticity and we will have a special guest for you. Thank you.